Hey interwebs, it's JackitK, and welcome to the Pokemon Go Fireside Chat. My weekly reconnect with you guys on the internet, talking about the latest stuff going on in the game, and some personal experiences that I've had throughout the week. I guess we should start off by saying that it has certainly been an eventful week in Pokemon Go. It's happened quite a bit, but I guess you could argue this one is a little bit special. Because, for one, we got a new special research to go through, and I'm not sure if it's spoilers if I show off my stream, my special research. So I guess I'll just save it for when we get to that section of the show and talk more about it then. I do got some news to go over, and I might as well take care of that first and foremost, get it out of the way. Before we get into the big elephant in the room, there is another side thing that I wanted to bring up that might have got lost under the dirt. This weekend, over in Nashville, Tennessee, the Pokemon World Tournaments is going on. For those of you who don't follow Pokemon outside of Pokemon Go, essentially how it works is there's quite a bit of a competitive scene for the main series games. I know some of you on the internet call them Game Boy games, even though that's technically not accurate, because everything after the Game Boy Advance is no longer considered Game Boy, but that's not a rant worth going into. But in the main series games, as well as the Pokemon trading card game, there's actually quite a bit of a competitive scene, and they host tournaments in all regions of the world. Around here in the United States, I believe, they go by region, and then by state, then by country, and then the entire world. Like, the champions from the United States tournament are there, and then champions from Europe's, I guess Asia and Australia, and however else they divide it up. They're all going to be gathering this weekend, and a lot of the battles probably have already taken place up in Nashville. How does this relate to Pokemon Go? Well, without PvP, there's no real competitive scene in this game quite yet, but that doesn't mean there's absolutely no reason not to turn on the game if you're in the area. If you don't remember last year, they had a pretty eventful set of spawns for the Pokemon World Tournament. Last year, there was Unknown spelling out a word, and then there was Kangaskhan, which is the regional that you can usually only find in Australia. And they even upped up the Twirl spawns for those coming in from outside the country, so they actually can get their regional Pokemon. Remember, this was back when regionals like Twirls were actually pretty rare, even in your own country. This year is a little less eventful. You still got Unknown spelling out letters. This time they're spelling out the word Nashville. But there's also a research task for a regional that may not be as exciting, but still is a regional that would be out of reach for some people nevertheless. And that is the Pokemon Corsola. From what I read up, you go complete field research task, and you get your hands on your own Corsola. Pretty exciting for those that don't go far enough to the equator to actually pick up a Corsola or two. Now, I think we can move on to the big thing that everyone's looking forward to talking about. And that's the Johto Festival. Man, there's just... It didn't seem like it was going to be much of an event at first, but when you piece all the various parts of it and combine them together, you then realize just how big of a deal this event is. First thing that was related to it was we got news that a special research that would allow you to get a Pokemon that was originally exclusive to Pokemon Go Fest has finally come out. That would be the special research for the Pokemon Celebi. Like Mew, Celebi is a mythical Pokemon. And if you were at GoFest, you were able to do a set of special research to get your hands on one. However, now anyone can get their hands on one. But don't expect it to be a walk in the park. Don't expect it to be something that you can just stream for 24 hours and bam, get your mythical Pokemon. They're going to make you work for this thing. They're going to, and even if it's through artificial means, they're making sure that you actually take your time to get this Celebi. Should I go into the details of the quest itself or save it for later? I think I'm actually going to save it for later and go over the other things related to this Johto event. The next thing that came out was the Johto Festival officially starting. With it, they changed the spawns around to feature around mostly Johto Pokemon, and even the rare ones like Larvitar have been popping up a lot more often than usual. So if you missed out on Community Day, or you just can never get enough Larvitar candies, this is a good time to get out and get that stuff. In addition, there's also new shiny Pokemon to hunt for. With this event, they introduce Sunkern, Sunflora, Natu, Oxnu, Pineco, and Fortress, all with their shiny forms. In addition, you may have heard about that sleeper wave that came out around the time that they released Spinda as a research task. That being Shiny Snubbull, Shiny Gramble, Shiny Houndour, and Houndoom. They're all Johto Pokemon, so they've been appearing more often during this event as well. And if you prefer to get your Pokemon through quests, rare, and raids, don't feel left out, because they update and change the quests around to alleviate your needs. Let you get your rare Johto Pokemon through a particular research task. One of the more common ones that you'll find is a mission where you catch 3 Sunkerns, and it can be pretty much any evolution item. Let me double check it. No, I don't have any, but it'll show up on the corner to right there as either like a Sunstone, an upgrade, a metal coat, pretty much any evolution item. I wouldn't be surprised if it was only one focused around Johto Pokemon, but from my experience, it just feels like it's been any of them. Then again, I think at this point, all the evolution items are for Johto Pokemon, so maybe that's it. The next one you may have seen hovering here is this one where you evolve 3 Sunkerns or Natu. You do that particular quest, and you get yourself a hand on a Pineco. From my experience since walking around in that, Pineco's actually been a bit of a rare Pokemon. Like, I feel like I've actually seen more Larvitar than Pineco. Probably because they want you to try to get it through this particular research. And actually, if I got enough candies to evolve 3 Natus, I'll just do it right now to show you guys. But yeah, that's 1 Natu. And I don't even think I have enough to... I'm getting there, but not quite enough to evolve 3 Sunkern, or 2 Sunkerns. I don't even think I have enough items to evolve it. Because this Johto event's pretty much burned all my Sunstones. And I'll admit, I haven't been hoarding them. Like, before this Johto event, if I got, like, more than 5 of any evolution item, I'd just been dumping them like this. Because I haven't really had a need to evolve any Johto Pokemon after the first one or so. Milico's been useful to get Scizor, I guess. But besides evolving my Sunkerns for this particular quest, I haven't had too many opportunities to do those evolutions. But if you want to increase your odds of getting that shiny Pinecone, keep your eyes out for that particular quest event. Natu and Sunkern are pretty much the most common Pokemon right now. So as long as you got a good catch and grind going on, it won't be too hard to do that quest. Next one I have up on here is the Catch 5 Water Pokemon quest. This one is interesting. It can either be Poliwhirl or Kingdra, both Pokemon that evolve into Johto Pokemon through evolution items. From my experience, I don't recall getting anything besides Seadras from this particular quest. However, my source does say you can get Poliwhirl as well as Seadra. So maybe it's a typo on this quest. Maybe I just haven't gotten lucky enough to get a Poliwhirl. All I can say for sure is I have gotten Seadras from this particular quest. So that is at least one of the things you can get from it. A quest that I don't have on here is one where you have to raid for just do a raid. I don't even recall if you have to beat it or not. I just know that it's a quest you gotta do. Obviously, if you do a raid and beat it, you would definitely be able to get the prize for this particular quest. But just give me one moment to double check my source and make sure. Yep, you actually have to win the raid, so no going into a level 5 and all by yourself thinking, well, it's a free raid pass, I don't care if I waste it, I just want to get this Pokemon. Nope, you have to actually do a raid you can beat. You do that though, you get yourself a fine Porygon, which if you're still looking for a good Porygon 2 for the upcoming release of Sinnoh. I say upcoming only just because it's heavily hinted that it's going to be a thing. Not that we know exactly when it's going to happen. Point being, if you still need a Porygon 2, that's your chance to get the Porygons, and the King you need to evolve it. And with evolution items being all over the place for this event, getting that upgrade you need shouldn't be an issue either. Just spin stops until you get a 3 catch Sunkern quest that rewards you with an upgrade, and you should be good. It's like my first Sunkern quest was an upgrade, and it's been so long since I used one. I had to actually ask my group chats of, what's this item that looks vaguely like a TM, but is obviously a different color from the typical TMs? And they're like, dude, that's an upgrade. And I'm like, oh, I'm dumb. Oh. Last but not least is this bottom quest. Make 4 great curveball throws, in a row. Something that I've personally gotten pretty accustomed to, but isn't a walk in the park. It's definitely the hardest out of all these quests. Unless you live in an area that's hard to get a hold of a raid, then I guess it's debatable. Oh, I almost forgot about 3 excellent throws. That one could also be tricky, I'll admit. But that one I'm not too worried about, because that just gets you either an Onyx or a Cypher. I haven't actually done one of these quests yet, so I'm not sure if it's like the Seadra where I can't prove if one Pokemon's more common than the other or not. I just know that according to my source, you can either get an Onyx or a Cypher. But I got on a tangent there. I've been building this up way more than it's actually worth. You catch 4 Pokemon in a row, or just make 4 great curveball throws in a row, and you get yourself a Miltank. Not really too useful, but it has been one of the rare Johto Pokemon. I'll admit, it's the one that eluded my decks the most. I feel like it was one of the last Johto Pokemon that I got hold of. I mean, granted, I still have to get myself some of the regionals and unknown, but it was one of the harder Pokemon for me to get hold of. I feel like that's a little misleading, because I'm pretty sure at least 4 of those Miltanks that I caught were excuse me, For those melt tanks that I caught, where from specifically this research? So I've probably only seen 3, and my first melt tank I actually got out of an egg. Like, I didn't even catch it in the wild. So that odds are that is one that's eluding your Pokedex, so if that's the case, it'd be well worth your time to try to get a hold of one. Wish I could check the dates of my Pokemon without checking the location. But I'm pretty sure that those other 2 are old. I know one of them came from an egg. One of them I might have caught from the wild, because I did see one melt tank roaming around since the Johto event started, but I don't recall if I ever seen a melt tank outside of the egg before this event even started. Long story short, lots of goodies to get from quests. And if you do like raiding, there's some good news for you. Honestly, the raids haven't changed too much, but there's always those raid exclusives like Absol, if you can get a friend or 2, Mawile, and the Lowen forms. But they've also introduced a few Pokemon to fit the theme of Johto a bit more. Level 1 raids have pretty much changed the most drastically. Pretty much been everything's been replaced with the 3 Johto starters and Sunkern. I assume they threw Sunkern in there to give you something shiny related to go after. And I feel like I'm missing a level 1 raid, but I didn't want to spend too much time going over the raids, because so much of it is similar. Minor differences here and there. Pinecone has been added to level 2 raids for those of you looking for a shiny Pinecone. There's a few other changes, but they feel less significant. I think Houndoom is ironically out of the raid still, and Piloswine has been replaced, or has replaced Houndoom. That's all the changes I recall off the top of my head, but I feel this Johto event's not going to go on too much longer, and they'll probably change raids after the Johto event ends, so I didn't want to spend too much time on that. And last but not least, I think, is in regards to the Celebi research. I'm not going to go over every detail, but I still want to throw a spoiler alert up here, in case you're trying to keep things innocent for yourself. I do want to go over a couple of the missions. One, so I can actually talk about my personal experience with Celebi quests, and 2, to go over some discussion points that I've seen come up with this quest. So, the special request, Celebi, a Ripple in Time. Time is a major theme of this event, in more ways than you may realize. There are a lot of things in this quest that are focused around activities that are inevitably going to take a significant period of time. One of the bigger hurdles that I just got over was a quest where you have to hatch 9 eggs, and unless you got like a horde of super incubators like I did, you're going to be stuck on that one for a while. There's also events coming up in the future where I believe there's this one that you're seeing up here where I have to walk an EV 10 kilometers and then evolve into an Espeon, and you can't pre-walk it because the mission actually doesn't start keeping track of your time until it actually comes up. So if you walk an EV 10 kilometers before you get to this mission, well, you're out of luck. You gotta walk that EV 10 more kilometers. In addition, there's also a mission real early on where you have to pretty much catch a Pokemon 3 days in a row. I understand time-based events, but I find it interesting that they also want to push consistent activity and the idea that if you miss one day, you screwed it up and have to start over. And there's also at least one more in the future that falls in that way. I believe there's one where you have to spin a Pokespot 20 days in a row. Which, I've been going for daily bonuses anyways, even if I just, like, stop by a place that has a Pokespot on my way up to work. In general, that hasn't been too much of an issue. But some people in the community kind of are upset about this. At least from what I've heard secondhand. I can kind of see it because, like, some people make a competition out of seeing how quickly they can do it. And I do like the idea of having a lot of skill-based missions to complete the Celebi quest. But it kind of goes... The fact of having all these extra time-based missions kind of goes back into a concept I have of special research is supposed to be a long-term thing. You're not supposed to be able to do it in one night. It's supposed to be something you slowly work up to. Something that's supposed... They can't give us a special research every day. So it's like going on a journey. Like, special research is the only time we actually get anything in regards to story. And as basic as it is, it's still storytelling events. I guess my point is just... Niantic probably saw people racing to complete the events. They did not like that. And since they can't stop us from rushing through special research through skill-based event, they decided to add some specific stuff to assure that no matter what, we had to take our time completing this. I personally don't even mind the concept of walking an Eevee, because that's technically a skill-based thing. Like, technically, you're not forcing a timer on yourself. You could just, if you really wanted to get it done, you could just walk all day and get your 10 kilometers with your Eevee. I can kind of see how some of the other ones would be annoying, like spin 20 Pokestops in a row. That one in particular feels like it punishes casual players. Because you don't always have the time to play this game every day. If you play them more on the casual size. And it's not like you could just resume it later on. Like, if there's one day where you're working so much where you can't possibly ever take the time to actually spin a Pokestop, as simple as it is, that pretty much means you're screwed out of ever getting past that mission. And the concept of that bothers me. Is I feel like it's going to be a lot more rare than I'm making it out to be, but it is concerning. Overall, I don't mind the way it's laid out. I can just kind of see where some people's concerns are. And I spent a little more time on that tangent than I was expecting. Second last thing I want to talk about in regards to the Celebi research is a new item that comes out of it. If you don't already know, a while back, people who have way too much time on their hands, but their works are appreciated by the community, found some in-game sprites of a new item that just looks similar to a peanut berry, but was silver. And it was called the Silver Peanut Berry. There's a lot of speculation of what that item would do, but it's now officially in the game. Specifically for a part of the special research I haven't got to yet. But I did look up what it did online. And it doesn't behave exactly like a golden raspberry. It doesn't like quadruple or triple your berry wield. In hindsight, we all should have realized that would have been too broken. Instead, arguably this berry is even better, because it acts similarly to a raspberry and a golem and a peanut berry. Let me just double check the exact numbers before I say for sure, because I want to say it acts like a golden raspberry and a peanut berry, but in that case, it would outclass a golden raspberry, and it would be a little weird to consider it a silver peanut berry and not like a gold or a rank even above gold. So give me a moment to check that out real quick. Meanwhile, enjoy the night music. Anyways, I did look it up, and it's kind of right and wrong at the same time. The silver peanut berry is slightly better than a normal raspberry, but not quite as good as a golden raspberry when it comes to improving your odds of catching a Pokemon. However, the fact that both is better than a normal raspberry and acts as a peanut berry, it is pretty darn good. If you want to know the exact numbers, a silver peanut berry gives you double candy, increases your catch rate by 1.8% or 8 times, has a berry multiplier of 2, works slightly better for feeding at gyms than normal berries, and the last one is just in regards to what level you need to be to get it, which I think is also tied to the quest. In comparison, a golden raspberry has a catch rate increase of 2.5%, while normal raspberry has an increase of 1.5%. So it's, in layman's term, is slightly better than normal berries at feeding at gyms, slightly worse than a golden raspberry, has a bit better of a catch rate than a normal raz, but not quite as good as a golden raz, but in addition, it gives you double candies. I think I covered all my bases there. A couple other things that I forgot to bring up. One, if you went to Pokemon Go Fest, you will not get a second Celebi. Instead, when you reach that part where you would normally catch a Pokemon, you'll receive, quote, a bounty of candy to power up your Celebi. Since I didn't go to Go Fest, I don't know exactly how much candy that is. And because I haven't gotten to the end of the special research, of course. Let's see. The other question you may have in mind is, what if I still am working on my Mew quest? Can I do Celebi? Well, it depends. After you have completed stage 3 of your Mew research, the Celebi quest will become unlocked for you personally. And once it is unlocked, you can do things for both of them side by side. So you can work on catching 5 ghosts while you're walking your Eevee to evolve into an Espeon, just as an example. And is there anything else in regards to the Johto stuff that I forgot to bring up? Oh, there is one thing that like a little curveball they threw out of the blue for a quick second. And that's for exclusively this weekend, so if you're watching on stream, you still have tomorrow to go out there and raid for it. By the time I get this uploaded elsewhere, it'll probably be over, but exclusive all the way to August 27th. Probably not for the whole day. aka Monday sometime, the legendary Pokemon Ho-Ho has returned to raids. And like the last time Ho-Ho was around, it has a chance to be a shiny. For those of you who are looking for what to bring against a Ho-Ho, one, you're probably going to need a good crowd of people. Raid guides I've seen have... Actually, why don't I just pull up a raid guide? Preferably one about Ho-Ho and not the Reggies. Oops. If you can pardon me 1 second, I'm sure you this will be worth our time. Actually, I can see it well enough from here. Thanks to our good friends at PokeBattler.com, here's a list of things you would want to bring against that darn Ho-Ho. Shoot, I thought this would actually tell me how many people you need for said raid, but I guess we gotta go a little bit more into it. Nah, it's not. Doesn't seem like I'm gonna find it easily. I guess it does say 2 to 4 players there, but trust me, that's for high level players. I did try to do one more locally where not everyone has a fully stacked out team. And we had about 7 or 8 people and just barely took it out that way. Then again, I feel like if I had like 4 players that were on the same level as me, had the same amount of Pokemon and used them, then yeah, we could have probably taken out that Ho-Ho with 4 players, but just keep in mind that the number that's recommended to bring against a raid is highly dependent on if you actually have the Pokemon listed on the counters page. So essentially, if you got some Tyranitars from Community Day that have the Smackdown and then you TM them to have Stone Edge, that is always your best thing to bring. It's a little annoying when the Ho-Ho has Solar Beam and pretty much one-shots your Tyranitars, but it's unarguably the Pokemon that's going to dish out the most damage, and since with raids, there's a time limit and not a Pokemon limit, guess what's more important? The ability to attack. If you weren't around for Community Day, your next best 2 things are Raikou, which honestly would probably be good for Solar Beam because it won't be taking super effective damage, but Solar Beam is still a pretty strong move, and Kyogre. If you don't have the Tyranitars, Golem is a good low budget double rock user. And in this case, a lone Golem is also an option, but I guess he may be more useful against Solar Beam, but I still get the feeling that even though it's not taking quadruple super effective damage, you're still gonna get essentially one-shotted. And I guess they're as surprised as I am, but if you got yourself a Regirock, this is probably your one opportunity to make use out of it, because rock types are just so good against Ho-Ho, and I guess its defenses come in useful too, because it's probably the one rock type that's not going to get one-shotted by Solar Beam. If you don't got Golems and Tyranitars, then somehow got a Regirock for some reason, use a Regirock. He is actually outclassed by the 2 I mentioned before, despite being a legendary, but he still makes the list somehow. And if you don't got Raikou, Zapdos is also an option. And it will resist Solar Beam, probably the best out of all the Pokemon listed. But damage-wise, Raikou will still do more damage. If you have HM to spare, then a pretty good Solar Beam counter, especially in the partly cloudy weather, would be Rayquaza. Because it's probably one of the few flying types that actually get Stone Edge. And I've gone over already how useful having a rock type move is. And I've gone over how annoying it is to do with Solar Beam. In a similar way, Gyarados is useful. Still take normal damage because it's part water, but at least it won't take super effective damage, but still dish out the super effective damage. And if the weather is partly cloudy, I guess your Soul Rock or Lunatone could work as well. Ignore Almstar, because unless you have the legacy move, it's not really worth it. Guess I can show you real quick what I personally have for friendship. Ding it. This is going downhill rather quickly. Thankfully, it doesn't seem like too many people, if anyone, is here, so I can just edit this out, but dang it, do I just pause? You know what? Give me a second, I'm gonna pause. As I was saying, this is what I'm planning on bringing. This is the preset team I made to fight up against a Ho-Ho. If all of us had this exact team, we probably would be able to take it out with 2 to 4 people. But if you don't got the types that were listed in that raid counter chart, expect to bring, and you're not like above level 30, expect more people than 4 to be necessary to take it out. I guess the best alternatives I can think of that aren't legendary would include Golem, probably one of the most common rock types you can get a hold of. I know Solrock and Lunatone aren't exactly rare, but there's been a couple of events where, depending on where you live, the spawn rates were just out of control, so that'd be a good low budget option as well. Gyarados, which even though it's going to take a high amount of maintenance to get up there, if you've been playing for a long time, you probably have at least a couple Gyarados sitting around, so I recommend that. And my go-to budget water type would be useful for this particular case, assuming you have none of the better options. Vaporeon is excellent, if not because of its power, then because of its availability. Like, we just had an Eevee community day where you got flooded with Eevees. Odds are you have at least a couple good ones that manage to make their way to a Vaporeon. And if so, and you have no Gyarados and Kyogres, I recommend powering up a couple of Vaporeons to use instead. In a similar fashion, Jolteon could make a fair alternative to your typical legendary Pokemon of Raikou and Zapdos. As well as Ampharos if you had a couple sitting around from Community Day. Just keep in mind that since these aren't the top Pokemon, if it's all you got, it's going to take more people to take out the raid boss. Like, we had 8 people going in. Not everyone had top tier stuff. And while we were able to take it out, it did take some work to do so. Actually, since I'm spending so much time talking about the Ho-Ho, why didn't I keep forgetting that I have these raids, so why don't I just show rather than tell the good that can come out of it. Yeah. Wish I had more time to talk with the people, because I do not recommend taking the recommendations too hard. Because then you have situations like this, where 8 people take 40 seconds to take out a whole. The opposite, I mean, like 40 seconds left on the clock to take out a ho-ho. Granted, the solar beam set didn't help either, so expected to take a little bit more people than I thought to take out a ho-ho. And this gets worse and worse every time. But I can't be too hard because I don't know how much is them just blindly following the recommendations and how much is them actually not having the Pokemon to really make out the list. But I hate to call out my friends, but I just gotta at this point. Do not bring ho-hos against ho-hos. They do not get any moves, minus maybe Brave Bird, that will not obliterate. That will just be worthless. Do not bring Registeel. Do not bring Aerons. I'll admit, I tried to get rid of my Aeron. I tried to like throw in the back of the party, but I wasn't expecting to get to it so quickly. Now, the way the recommended system works is that it's pretty much the same for gyms as it is for rating, so it will keep it will basically go through and base it on defense as well as offense and pretty much average it. So Pokemon that really resist Ho-Ho, like Ho-Ho definitely would resist a Solar Beam because it's fire and flying. However, that does not mean you use a Ho-Ho against a Ho-Ho, because Ho-Ho can't do anything to you, but as a Ho-Ho, you can't do anything to Ho-Ho. You get what I'm saying? What other things do you not want to bring against? Yeah, you don't want to bring a Metagross against a Ho-Ho. Steel types are not going to do anything to a Ho-Ho. Do not bring a Skarmory. Basically, don't bring anything that doesn't do super effective damage against a Ho-Ho, unless it's the Dragonite, because Dragon Pokemon in general just have so much raw power that the fact that they resist stuff can naturally be useful. Like, if I would have realized this Ho-Ho has Solar Beam, I might actually just do a team with my Rayquazas and Dragonites, because even though they don't have super effective moves, they can dish out a lot of damage and not die instantly to Solar Beam. Guess I can pull out this other experience I had while I'm going through chatting about the other things that I have on mind. Because this makes a good segue into talking about some of the personal experiences I've had during the week. Basically, I tried a lucky egg, a bunch of stuff, try to get the most out of it, and I think I did alright. I mean, if it was a legendary raid that I ended up doing instead of an Absol raid, then I would not argue that I didn't have a good use out of my lucky egg, but I'm not too worried about experience. I just was hoping to make the most out of my last lucky egg that I could. Some of the stuff that I did instead of just evolving, though, kind of justified, made the ends worth the means, if you know what I'm saying. So you got that Pupitar, some evolutions, and we took out this Absol here. Basically obliterate the Absol with your fighting types. And feel like I'm just skimming through it, but I just realized I've been talking for an hour, not even like the pre-show, just been going at this for an hour. Found some more Larvatars. There was like one Pupitar and at least 2 Larvatars in this single walk alone. I almost forgot, like I made a lot of progress on my Celebi quest. Pretty much getting to the point where I'm at now during that time frame. Which reminded me of something else I want to talk about. I think I decided how I'm going to handle this will be special research. I have been recording my progress as I go through each one. And I think how I'm gonna do it is I'm gonna edit a series of videos to quote unquote stream and upload alongside with it. Essentially, when I have some free time, I'm gonna sit down, play the video, and hang out with you guys in the chat. So you guys can watch me go through my Celebi research while getting over the obstacle of not having enough data to actually just stream everything I do in Pokemon Go. I feel like it's a fair compromise. As for when that'll go up, it'll depend on when I got time. In worst case scenario, if you guys missed the stream, I'll upload the video to YouTube as well. Anyways, what you're seeing here is me just trying to claim one of my first evolved threesome kerns, or not to, in order to get the pinecone. Spoilers, I got the pinecone, as well as a bunch of milk tanks. This is where my milk tank count really got boosted. There's a pinecone here, and as you can see, it's not shiny, unfortunately. There's still a little bit of time left for this event though, so maybe I will get a chance to actually get that good old Suicune or shiny pinecone. And if not, it's not a big deal because shiny Pokemon are rare. But once they're released, you can pretty much catch them at any time. Just obviously when the spawns are more geared towards those shiny Pokemon, it's a lot easier to get more chances at it being shiny. And I think I want to end off this stream, which has been going on for a lot longer than I was planning, with some discussions. I was tempted to skip it actually because I've been going for so long as is. And this is going to make a pretty long video podcast to listen to, but I may have to edit some things down just because I paused a couple times going through it and that. So we'll see. First and foremost, I wanted to go back to when I talked about Chikorita Community Day for a little bit, because I feel like I was a little too harsh on it. I was hardly harsh on it at all, but I feel like I missed some points that would have allowed me to appear even more forgiving of Chikorita Day than I was before. First of all, everyone has their favorite starter. So everyone's gonna eventually... Everyone wants... Each of the starters are gonna appeal to a person. So I can understand why the people who really enjoyed Chikoritas have stories with it because it was their starter and they went for a whole journey with it. Why they would be so excited to actually get more Chikoritas and be able to get a shiny form. It's an interesting shiny, not the most standout shiny to exist, but worth knowing nevertheless. And I also wanted to talk about the fact that not every community day has to have a meta-related Pokemon. It's actually good for the game to take a break from those sessions, because speaking from my experiences at least, whenever there's a community day revolving around meta-related Pokemon, a lot of times those community days turn into a grind session. Sometimes to the point where it's all about the grind and not about the community. Those are rare, to be honest, but essentially it's a lot harder to get people to do things besides catch Pokemon outside of said community day. Like, for example, I'm pretty sure when Larvitar Community Day was a thing, like, no one wanted to stop to do raids because we all wanted to catch Larvitars, get all the candies, get a bunch of good ones to evolve into, get that special Smackdown move. And my point is just, when it's a more casual community day, you may think that the vault results in less people coming out for it, but I feel like that's rarely the case. At least from where I live, I never noticed the crowds going down significantly during a community day. And when it is a more casual community day, because the Pokemon isn't one you need to grind for candies as much, it's actually a bit more relaxing. You get to actually hang out with the community a bit more. Maybe you can at least convince people not to do raids. Though the real grinding types are probably gonna still want to catch stuff for this one because of the double experience. It's just less stressful, and you're more likely to do more than just catch Pokemon during those particular community days. I gotta be careful with how I say it, because I don't want to imply that community day is ever stressful, but there's definitely times when there's a lot more pressure to catch Pokemon than others. I guess another thing I wanted to go over was in regards to some opinions I've heard on the internet and things I wanted to say in response. Don't worry, I don't got any wars against YouTubers or something to talk about. Just some interesting speculation that's come up from there, and some ideas I've gotten because of that. One is in regards to the Ultra reward for the Summer Bash community days, or community events. Like, technically, the Europe Safari Zone, Pokemon Go Fest, and the upcoming Japan Safari Zone are all part of one mega event, like a worldwide summer celebration. And as you may notice from previous days, they all had global research tasks where each part of the world had to do a certain amount of research to unlock rewards. And if all the regions did that, they would unlock a special reward for that entire day. For the Europe Safari Zone, we had that raid day event for Articuno. For Pokemon Go Fest, it was Zapdos. It's a very, very safe bet that for the upcoming Japan Community Day, it'll be Moltres. For one, we got the whole Uno Dos Tres. They're even doing it in order. How could it not be Moltres? However, something that you may have missed is there's an Ultra reward. Not only do we get rewarded for completing the field research task for each of these events, if we reach the big reward for each event, which we're currently on our way doing, and I got this sinking suspicion that Niantic has specifically arranged it so we wouldn't have to worry about not making those research task goals. There's an Ultra reward, something we get for completing absolutely everything that went on during the summer. There's a lot of talk going around what that could be. I've heard some people speculate that it'll be another raid event like how we had for Articuno and Zapdos. Heard some people speculate that it would be the Celebi special research, but obviously that's been disproven. I even heard some people talk about how we're going to get a whole ton of shinies released into the game, but I'll get more into that later. What I personally want to talk about is a theory that kind of feel like a Debbie Downer for even bringing up, but I still feel the need to talk about because it actually sounds a bit more realistic when you talk about patterns. Just give me a sec to sip some more water and I'll get into that. I really gotta finish this up soon because I'm almost at the end of my water, and I brought a big cup down just to ensure that I didn't run out, and sure enough, I'm still running out anyways. Essentially, I think we're gonna get a Lugia raid date. And it makes sense because we got Articuno, Zapdos, and assumingly Moltres. And what legendary Pokemon is commonly associated with all three of those? It's Lugia. Yay! Which is good if you don't have it for the decks. Bad for kind of everyone else, because unfortunately Lugia just doesn't hold up in the meta, for lack of a better way to describe it, than some of the other legendaries. I've gone over this before, but Pokemon Go hates defensive Pokemon. And unfortunately, Lugia and Ho-Oh got a lot of bulk, so it's a bit more rare to find situations to use them over pure offensive Pokemon. But, I mean, it's not just the overall lore of the Pokemon series that points to this. In the past, when the legendary raids were first released, what were the first two Pokemon we got out of legendary raids? Articuno and Lugia. Even more so when we went through each of the legendary birds, and Niantic decided to give us an encore round with all the legendary birds in the tier 5 eggs, and pretty much just legendary bird free-for-all. Guess who else they threw into the mix? Our good old buddy Lugia. I kind of hope there's a little more to it than that, personally. Because I get the feeling like a Lugia raid day wouldn't be as exciting as legendary birds. Not even just because Lugia may not be as useful as some legendary birds, but keep in mind, because Lugia is more bulky than legendary birds, it takes more people to take it out, and part of the appeal of the legendary days is the fact that they intentionally make it weaker, so you need less people to do it. Like, it gives a lot of people who normally wouldn't have the option to beat a raid, gives them a fighting chance. And when I think more about it, I'm a little concerned that if Lugia ends up having his own raid day, it might just end up actually discouraging people from the concept, because it's a more powerful Pokemon, so even if you just make it a tier weaker, it's still going to require more trainers than your typical raid day Pokemon. Hopefully it makes Lugia more accessible for people who don't have it, and so you don't have to have like a party of 10 trainers just to take out a single Lugia, like how it was in the old days when it first came out. But I still wonder if it's going to still be too high of a minimum trainer count to really make it a good raid day Pokemon. Yeah, we'll find out soon enough. The Japanese Community Day isn't too far away, and I assume after they give it some time with the rewards for that, they'll release more details about what the Ultra reward actually is. Now, earlier on, I mentioned about one of the speculations I've heard online being that they release pretty much all of Gen 1 into the game with their shiny forms. Give me a moment to explain why the proof, quote-unquote, people have towards this theory isn't correct, and why I don't think it's a good idea. It'd be a very exciting idea, and I actually wouldn't be angry, but I am concerned about it from a long-term standpoint. But first, let me go over why I don't think it's going to happen. A lot of people are coming to this speculation because of something that I try to stay away from, but always seem to find my way back to. Data mines. Yay! Good old friends who data mine the game recently found that all the Gen 1 shiny sprites were added to the game. One, I could have sworn this happened already, that we already got news a few months back, if not longer ago, that all the Gen 1 shiny sprites were in Pokemon Go already. 2, the fact that the sprites are in the game does not guarantee that the shiny Pokemon will come out anytime soon. Even Go Hub, which I feel is where most people are getting this information from, not the ones who actually do the data mines, but the ones who report on it, they say in their article that shiny sprites do not guarantee that the shinies are coming out anytime soon. In fact, I personally believe that this proves the exact opposite. I feel like Niantic's actually releasing as many sprites into the game as possible because we as a community have a bad habit of peeking into our presence, for lack of a better way to describe it. We actually go out of our way to actually look into information before Niantic is ready to reveal it to us. People data mine and see like 1 or 2 new shiny sprites, then almost pretty much guarantees that Pokemon is going to be shiny in an upcoming event, and spoils the surprise. Doing it this way, we have no way to predict what's going to happen next, unless they actually are going to release all the shinies at once, but that just sounds ridiculous. Personally, as cool as it would be to get so many shinies at once, due to my personal appeal, I'll just say extra layer of gameplay that hunting for shinies adds to this game. I feel like Niantic already has an excellent formula with releasing shinies, like the fact that we can actually spread them out, release just a couple, even times when we get like 3 new shinies, not including their evolved forms, into the game. Still think that's better than naturally releasing them all at once, because you can spread them out, actually have them be like little memorials, like, oh, I remember when this shiny first came out because the year the dog event happened, or these came out for Pokemon Go Fest and it was fun to hunt for them. And most importantly, like, each of the Community Day Pokemon, minus Pikachu, the shiny form's been released for each one of those, so even though you could, in theory, catch the Pokemon outside Community Day, it still more likely stands for a memorable moment, like a time they actually went out and played the game with friends. And you get what I'm saying? Like, when they spread out the shinies like this, it makes getting a shiny more memorable. You can actually associate something specific to it, even if you don't get it at that particular time. I could definitely see the hype value of releasing all the shinies at once, but I don't think they would do so, and I think it actually means more the way they're currently releasing the shinies. Yeah, I have been going on for a while. Probably should have cut 1 or 2 of my personal speculations out of this, but it's too late to go back and cut things. At least live. I could in theory do it in post, but why even bother? Just gives you guys more rambling to listen to, and I assume if you're listening to it at this point, you actually enjoy that. Thank you all for tuning in to my little fireside chat. Hopefully I have more memories to bring to you guys for next week. For those of you just following along, I encourage you to follow me on whatever media you prefer to listen to this to. If you want to listen to a live in that, just follow me on Twitch. Also stream other gaming stuff every now and then. If you'd rather watch the videos in post, YouTube's a good option for that. If you search for JackitK, you should be able to find me on both Twitch and YouTube under those names. And as for audio only, I'm still working on that option. But I think I got a SoundCloud in the works. Maybe I'll do it on some other form. I'll keep you all updated on my social media as I get that through. Social media. Best place to follow me on is on Twitter, even though I do talk about other shenanigans and just retweet funny stuff. I also post when I'm gonna go live and things like that. So I encourage you to check that out. Essentially, it's JackitK's stuff, or just Jackit stuff. You spell that just going Jackit, and instead of the K, put in some stuff, and you got the Twitter handle. With all that said, hope to see you all for next week. Take care.